On Friday, June 26, 2023, at 7:36 in the morning, a 31-year-old mother approached the playground where her daughter was sleeping. The child, just 16 months old, appeared to be resting peacefully. However, what the mother discovered was deeply disturbing and would haunt her forever. The little girl was covered in debris: the blanket, the small mattress, her hands, and her face all stained. Her skin was completely soiled, and the worst part was her dry, cracked lips, sunken eyes, and extremely cold, wrinkled skin. Jailyn Candelario was lifeless. The frantic mother immediately called 911. Within minutes, an ambulance and several police officers arrived at the scene. What they encountered was nothing short of horrifying. Reports indicate that some officers were moved to tears, while others were at a loss, unable to do anything for the child, who was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical team conducted an autopsy on the child, while the police questioned the mother. Initially, she was extremely distraught, but as time passed, she began to speak more coherently. She explained that the previous week, the child had been under her care and had refused to eat or drink. She recounted everything calmly, and fortunately, the agents recorded the entire conversation. The mother reported that the child had been refusing food for 2 days before her death, saying, "Oh my God, this is after last Monday and Tuesday." She was refusing food and had no appetite. She was like this Monday and Tuesday, and yes, we are talking about days ago. How was she on Wednesday and Thursday? She didn't eat, just had her meal. She was refusing food, maybe because she was not eating properly for 2 days. The situation was alarming. The mother explained, "Oh my God, I had to take her to the hospital because she seemed so frail and lost so much weight. That morning when I woke up, she was asleep. She had been sleeping for hours, from around 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Last night she cried a lot. And I saw her at one point while I was taking a shower. She was screaming, and I thought she might be in pain." Authorities were incredulous at what they discovered. They took the mother to the police station for questioning. The interrogation was conducted by Detective T.J. Powerwell, who had been with the Cleveland Police Department for many years. He had never encountered a case as disturbing as this one and described it as the worst he had ever seen. He found the mother's reaction to be inexplicable, as she had previously claimed she was always with her child and never left her alone for extended periods. Yet at the police station, she admitted she had gone to work far from home, leaving her daughter alone during that time. Further interrogation revealed that she had gone on vacation, leaving her daughter unattended. This case marked the beginning of the disturbing story of Andrea Candelario Torres. Born on September 11, 1991, in Guayaquil, Ecuador, there is little information about her childhood. We do know that she studied in Ecuador and graduated as a teacher. In 2016, she moved with her parents to Cleveland, Ohio. There is a gap in her story at this point, but it seems that Andrea met a man, married him, and had a daughter named Maya. They eventually divorced, and she received full custody of Maya. However, as a single mother, Andrea struggled to manage everything on her own. She had to work to pay the bills and take care of both herself and her daughter. Andrea's parents took on much of the responsibility for their granddaughter, with all 4 of them living together. Andrea worked while her parents took care of her daughter, and initially, everything seemed to be going well. Between 2019 and 2020, Andrea worked at Hope Academy North Coast and then at Citizens Academy Glenville as a substitute teacher. She continuously renewed her teaching certification each year. However, by 2023, she had not renewed it. According to her parents, Andrea worked long hours away from home and was unable to fully care for her daughter. During the day, she was at school, and in her free time, she enjoyed going out with friends, traveling, and sharing her experiences on social media. Her posts included selfies, travel photos, and occasional pictures of her children. Notably, she had a second daughter in 2020. In 2020, Andrea met Henry Garcia through Facebook. Henry, who was from Ecuador and of the same age as Andrea, began chatting with her. They liked each other's photos, commented on each other's posts, and soon started dating. However, they faced a challenge. Henry was unable to move to the United States due to visa issues. Consequently, Andrea decided to travel to Ecuador to meet him in person. Their meeting went well, and they continued their relationship. They took photos together, shared their experiences on social media, and seemed to be getting along romantically. After their time together, they returned to their respective homes, Andrea to Cleveland and Henry to Ecuador. Weeks later, Andrea discovered she was pregnant, but unfortunately, Henry could not travel to be with her. Henry was unable to travel with Andrea due to visa issues, and throughout the entire pregnancy, he could only watch from a distance through photos and video calls. Despite this, he remained hopeful that one day they would reunite and become a family, a hope that unfortunately never materialized. Jailyn Candelario was born on January 26, 2022. From the very beginning, she captivated everyone with her sweetness, laughter, charm, and affection. According to a neighbor, Jailyn was not only all of these things but more. She was a joyful, smiling, and curious baby, truly a wonderful child. As time passed, it seems that Andrea and Henry's relationship ended, though the reasons remain unclear. During the trial, it was suggested that the relationship became abusive, leading to their separation. However, it should be noted that there is no concrete information about this. What is certain is that custody of the children was awarded to Andrea, and her life continued as normal. Andrea and her 2 daughters lived with her parents in the same house they had always shared. They formed a family of 5, and their routine remained largely consistent. Andrea continued working hard while her parents cared for the children. However, as is natural, her parents could not always be available for the girls, as they also had their own lives and desired to travel. During these times, they often took the older daughter, Aya, along, but Jailyn, being very young and just a baby, remained at home with her mother. For instance, when they traveled to Ecuador, Jailyn stayed home with Andrea, who had to forgo social outings and stay at home with her child. It was during these periods that neighbors reported Andrea's behavior as less than ideal. According to several accounts, Andrea would leave Jailyn with various people, including neighbors and others in the vicinity, as a way to manage her own schedule. In principle, there should be no issue with Andrea wanting to live her own life, but in this particular case, she was absent for prolonged periods. Andrea would leave her daughter with a neighbor for a few hours, which often extended to several days. When the neighbor tried to contact Andrea, she received no response. In August 2022, Andrea left Jailyn with the neighbor for what was supposed to be just a weekend. The neighbor, who was very fond of the little girl, was delighted to help. However, as the weekend passed and Andrea did not return, the neighbor began to call her repeatedly. Astonishingly, Andrea did not answer or return the calls until several weeks later. When Andrea finally contacted her, it was to ask for money to buy milk for Jailyn, stating that she was unable to provide for her own child. Witnesses reported that Andrea not only left Jailyn with the neighbor indefinitely, but also left her alone at home, where she would cry and scream. Neighbors repeatedly begged Andrea not to leave Jailyn alone, including the neighbor and a friend across the street, but Andrea continued to disregard their pleas. In February 2023, when Jailyn was just 1 year old, a concerning incident occurred. Andrea's mother discovered her in bed with half of her body paralyzed. After trying to wake her without success, she rushed Andrea to Hillcrest Hospital immediately. The doctors suspected that Andrea had suffered a stroke, so they monitored her closely for several days. Despite this, they could not determine the exact cause of her symptoms. Andrea reported experiencing migraines, exhaustion, and weakness, for which she was prescribed various medications, including possibly Pout, a drug used to treat seizure disorders, certain psychiatric conditions, and to prevent migraines. Further tests eventually revealed that Andrea had not suffered a stroke. She was prescribed new medications, including antidepressants. In March, Andrea returned to the hospital, still feeling unwell. Additional tests concluded that her symptoms earlier in the year were due to anxiety and stress. She was sent home again with medication, but her condition did not improve. She continued to experience migraines, weakness, and fatigue, and eventually she ran out of medication. Such treatment cannot be abruptly discontinued. It requires continuity and careful management, which in Andrea's case was reportedly lacking. For 3 months, her treatment was interrupted. The defense argued that Andrea was suffering from depression and anxiety, and that she had occasionally self-harmed, presenting a danger to herself. They claimed that she should have been listened to and properly supported. However, due to various factors, this did not happen. The defense also suggested that Andrea's outward appearance might have concealed the severity of her condition, which may be why others did not recognize the seriousness of her situation. In June, as the school year ended, Andrea's parents decided to travel to Ecuador, marking a new chapter in their lives. For the trip, Andrea's parents planned to take Maya with them. They had agreed with Andrea that she would stay with Jailyn and ensure that if any issues arose, she would contact them or the neighbors if she needed to go out. However, something prevented this arrangement from working out. It seems Andrea was eager to travel and take some time for herself to disconnect and be with her new partner. She packed her bags overnight and left abruptly. In January and February 2023, Andrea had been hospitalized due to emotional and mental health issues, including a suicide attempt. She was hospitalized and unable to walk for 2 weeks. In March, Andrea and her now ex-boyfriend planned a vacation and booked a trip to Puerto Rico from June 8th to 11th. Unable to wait, she took a cab on June 6th and left. Surveillance cameras captured her departure on June 6th. Andrea had worked for Uber in Cleveland, but took an Uber job in Michigan because some friends were there. She met up with them and then traveled to Puerto Rico, enjoying parties, sunsets, and sharing numerous posts on Facebook. On June 9th, she posted a photo with the caption, "The time enjoyed is the real time lived after her time in Puerto Rico." Instead of returning immediately, she stayed with friends in Detroit until June 15th, continuing to party. On June 16th, early in the morning, she finally returned home but did not think to contact a neighbor to check on her daughter. She left Jailyn in the playpen, unattended, with no consideration for her well-being. Sources indicate that Andrea left a couple of bottles for Jailyn but did nothing else to care for her. At just 16 months old, Jailyn was unable to fend for herself. She could not leave the house or feed herself, and the neighbors heard her crying for several days. They initially believed she was sick but thought she was not alone, given the number of people around. They assumed she could have knocked on a door for help. According to the autopsy, Jailyn died between June 9th and 13th from starvation and severe dehydration. At the time of her death, she weighed only 5.8 kg, whereas she should have weighed approximately 14 kg for her age. Forensic pathologist Elizabeth Money testified in court that Jailyn's suffering was not only physical but also psychological. Children between 8 and 19 months experience intense separation anxiety, making the ordeal even more harrowing. The agony of abandonment, compounded by hunger and extreme thirst, is a suffering that is difficult for anyone to fully comprehend. Andrea was arrested on June 18, 2023. She faced charges of aggravated manslaughter, 2 counts of murder, criminal assault, and child endangerment. Her bail was set at $1 million, and the media eagerly reported on the case. The last school where she worked, Citizens Academy Glenville, issued a public statement announcing that Kristel Candelario had been terminated from her position as a substitute assistant. The statement also mentioned that an investigation would be conducted regarding her recent charges. Kristel had been employed there since November 2022, and her dismissal was effective immediately. The case advanced rapidly through the court system, with the trial initially scheduled for January 2024. However, the judge later rescheduled it to February 26, 2024. Facing a grim outlook, Kristel's lawyer reached a plea bargain with the prosecution 4 days before the trial. Kristel agreed to plead guilty to aggravated murder and 1 count of child endangerment, with the other charges being dropped. Sentencing was set for March 18, 2024. A hearing was held for the sentencing, during which both the defense and prosecution presented their arguments. The defense acknowledged that there was no justification for the tragedy but emphasized that Kristel had been struggling with significant health issues. They noted that at the beginning of the year, she had been prescribed medication for a serious condition, and despite her outward appearance, she had been suffering internally. During the emergency call, Kristel appeared deeply distressed and emotionally shattered. 2 hours later, it became evident that she was not mentally stable. For the prosecution, the defense's argument was worthless. They argued that Kristel went on vacation without considering her daughter. She could have called the neighbors or her parents to let them know, but it never occurred to her to seek help. This behavior was not new, it was a recurring issue with her. Additionally, it was striking that despite receiving medical treatment and follow-up in prison, her calls did not show any remorse. Conversations with friends and family were recorded, and in her last call in January, she spoke to her mother about God and forgiveness. Finally, Kristel Candelario stated, "There is so much pain I feel regarding the loss of my baby. I am deeply hurt by everything that happened. I am not trying to justify my actions, but no one knows how much I was suffering and what I was going through every day. I ask for forgiveness from God and my daughter Jailyn. I am a believer in God, and I recognize today that we are all tempted by the enemy. God and my daughter have forgiven me. I would also like to ask for forgiveness from my daughter Amaya and my parents. You can't imagine how close I was to my daughters and how much we all loved each other. I miss my daughters so much. Nothing can bring Maya back, and not a day goes by that I don't stop thinking about her. I pray to God that someday I can see her again and be reunited with Amaya, who is our only hope today." When the judge heard these words, he was shocked and sentenced her to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He said, "You committed the ultimate act of treason by leaving your baby terrified, alone, and unprotected to suffer what I have heard was the most gruesome death imaginable without food, water, or protection. The only difference now is that the prison will at least feed you and provide you with the fluids you denied her. But now it is your turn. What do you think of the case? Was the sentence fair?" And that's it for today's video. I hope you found this case very interesting. If so, please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the case. Do you think Kristel was fully aware of her actions, or do you agree with the defense's argument that she was not? That's all for today. See you in the next video. Bye.